Card King, here I come. Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com, your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program a two-time World Series champion, 1966 and 1970, and Baltimore Orioles Hall of Famer. I welcome in pitcher Eddie Watt. Eddie, great to have you. Thanks for being on.
Well, it's always good to be on. It's always good to be remembered when you're this old.
Man, as I was telling you, Eddie, hard to fit your historic career in one episode, so we may have to do a part two after. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so let's begin, Eddie. First question, how did the Baltimore Orioles hear about Eddie Watt?
Well, Phil Gallivan was scouting Minnesota at that time, and our baseball coach at the University of Northern Iowa, was Iowa State Teachers College then, they were friends. And they selected the Iowa State Teachers College to play in the pre-College World Series. They had it different then. They had 8 divisions from around the country. They had the number one seed from that division, that section, and they would call in somebody else to play them, and we happened to be the one selected to play Oklahoma State. Well, Byron Humphrey was scouting with the Orioles down in Oklahoma, and he happened to see the game, and Phil Gallivan, I don't know if he ever saw me pitch or not, but he had heard, and then Byron Humphrey saw me pitch, and then I went up to South Dakota to the Basin League, which at that time was one of the premier college summer teams. And so I guess those two people were probably as instrumental. And then the head scout from Baltimore down in St. Louis, he happened to come through. He was scouting. He was looking for players that winter. And he wanted to see Bill Davis in Minneapolis and going to offer him, I don't know, $60,000, and he was going over to Pat Richter in Wisconsin and offer him $60,000. And then he went to Hawk Taylor down in Illinois and was going to give him $100,000. And in the meantime, he thought he'd drive through Iowa City, where I was, and sign me to a contract. He didn't get anybody else, but he got me for nothing, so it turned out pretty well for him.
And Eddie, people may not realize before signing with Baltimore, you also offered deals from St. Louis Cardinals and the White Sox. Am I right?
Well, yes, that come from out of when I was in the Basin League. That league was very well scouted, and I was not in a very big demand. The standard rate at that time was I was offered $350 a month for just the baseball season by both the Cardinals and the White Sox, and then they were going to give me $5,000 or $4,000 if I made the big league club. And the Baltimore Orioles offered me $400 a month and nothing if I made the big leagues. But I decided I would grab that extra $50 a month and took it and signed with Baltimore and started. I had a 12-year career with the Orioles. I spent 4 years in the minor leagues and then 8 full years in the big leagues with them. I was very fortunate. They took care of their young people. If they thought you had ability, they would give you every opportunity. And I was really, really fortunate. I played for Cal Ripken Sr. my first 2.5 years in the minor leagues, and he was very, very instrumental in my career and my advancement. I laugh. I always thought that he thought I was a better pitcher than I was. I wasn't sure that I would ever get to the big leagues. I just didn't think I could quite handle it. But he was always encouraging, and Cal was a tremendous man and a true professional, and gave me every opportunity, and was fortunate that I was able to take those opportunities and run.
Yeah, and Eddie, when I analyze your minor league stats from 1962 to 65 with teams you played for during the Class D ball years to A, AA, AAA ball with Rochester, I mean, I see some impressive numbers you put up. 17-2 record in AA ball in 1964. Then you had a winning percentage of .933 at Aberdeen, going 14-1, followed by a 13-6 winning record as a pitcher. And we can't forget, during those years also, you pitched 2 no-hitters in a 2-week span with Elmira. So I guess, combining all these achievements really impressed the Orioles.
Well, I think so. I played for Cal Ripken the first 2.5 years, and then I played for Earl Weaver after that. And both of those people were thought of very highly in the Baltimore organization. And if they gave you a good report, then the Orioles would stand up and pay attention to you. I did pitch the 2 no-hitters in Elmira. I pitched one opening day, and then I went on the road and pitched. I think about a 10-inning one-hitter, and then I come back to Elmira and pitched another no-hitter, and then I went to Reading, Pennsylvania, and just got the hell beat out of me. I mean, I ended up giving 8 or 9 runs in 4 innings, and then came back to Elmira for the third start there, and I had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning there. So I'd pitched like 26, 27 innings or 26 innings of no-hit ball in Elmira, and then I kind of settled down after that. But I did have a good year. And I was a little older than a lot of the players at that time. I signed after my sophomore year in college, and I spent 4 full seasons in the minor leagues, starting 100 games. So when I got to the big leagues, I turned 25 a few days before opening day there in 1966. Of course, if you look on all those bubblegum cards and everything else, I lied a year about my age to...
you did.
Oh, yeah. It was a fairly common practice, and it really paid off for me. After my second year in the minor leagues, I was like 11-11, and I was 10-12. I got hurt that second year and was 10-12. I went to spring training the third year, and Harry Dalton, the farm director, come out and had everybody together at the first day, because we had, I think, 6 teams, and we had over 150 people. And he said, "Okay, everybody, 20-3, raise your hand." And I started to raise my hand. And I said, "Oh no, oops, I'm only 22 on the contract." And he says, "Okay, everybody 20-3 is released. We're on a youth kick." And I thought right then I had better get organized and do well, because if they were going to release everybody older than I am, but I was old enough to get released, so that's when I had the 17-2 year after that. And I learned how to pitch a little bit and do some other things. So, but I was very fortunate that I lied a year about my birthday, and it was a fairly common practice, and I was very fortunate how I got onto the big league roster. So I guess just a couple incidents got me to the big leagues that might not have ever happened.
And we're talking with pitcher Eddie Watt, who played on 4 American League championship teams, 1966, 69, 70, 71 Baltimore Orioles. He's with us this morning. Now, Eddie, tell me if I'm correct. Reading your history, it was that 1966 spring training season in which you did very well and impressed Hank Bauer. How was your relationship with Hank Bauer?
Well, Hank had a reputation. Of course, he was a sergeant in the Marine Corps and was spoke kind of a gruff way. But Hank treated people very, very well. He treated people the way he liked to be treated himself, and didn't ask you to go out of your way to do anything but just play the game. No show off, no nothing. Just go out and play the game and play it correctly. And I was very fortunate that I had a good spring training. I didn't expect to make the club. I had a house rented back in Rochester already, but I had a good spring. I pitched, I think, 13 or 14 innings or something in spring training, and gave up just a couple of runs. And Hank treated me really, really well, and I liked him. I really liked him, and some reason he liked me, and he even liked my old man. My old man would come in, of course, when we'd go to Chicago and Minneapolis and places, the old man would come and watch the games, and he and Hank got along pretty well. They were just like a couple of old farmers or something, but it was a very, very good experience playing for him.
Yeah, he did like you. And, I have a scorecard that I'm looking at. I believe it was opening day, 1966, if I'm correct. The Orioles faced the Red Sox, and you're pitching. That's your major league debut. Talk about, your major league debut. Were you nervous? I mean, how was that experience for you?
Well, of course I was very nervous. Being from a small town in southern Iowa with the family with the least money in the world, we were very, very poor. I had never been to a major league game. I had never been to a major league stadium. I had never been exposed to that many people watching the game or anything else, and till I was opening day, and it was the first game I'd ever seen, and went out and sat there in a bullpen for the first 12 innings, and Steve Barber started, pitched 5 or 6, and then Stu Miller came in and pitched 2 or 3 innings, and then Mo Drabowski pitched an inning or 2, and bullpen was getting kind of thin, and they called me into the ball game. And Jim Lomborg was pitching for Boston, and he balked in the top of the 13th inning, and we scored a run, and they brought me into the bottom of the 13th inning, and I faced the minimum. I faced 3 hitters. I got one. I struck one guy out and hit a couple of ground balls, and it was really, really thrilling for me. I had never expected to be a major league pitcher. I didn't think I had the ability, but it turned out really well for me that day. And I think, in every career of every athlete, there's always one instance that proves to himself that he belongs, and I think that was me. After I pitched in the big leagues for the first time, I thought, well, maybe I do belong here. I was very, very fortunate and stayed for a long time, and I didn't really feel at home for a year or two. I was still calling Brooks Robinson Mr. Robinson the first half of the year, but it was an experience that you never forget.
Yeah, and just those three batters that you did face, the Red Sox batters in your major league debut, George Scott, which you struck out. You faced Tony Horton and Rico Petrocelli. I think you got both of them to ground out. So you retired those three batters in your major league debut. And I want to ask you about some of these notable teammates of yours with the Baltimore Orioles. You mentioned Brooks Robinson. Frank Robinson was on the team. How are the Robinsons towards you?
I was treated real well by everybody. I guess I wasn't accustomed to being in the spotlight, so I was a kind of a shy kid anyhow. But the one thing that made the Orioles a good ball club and a good organization is the fact that we took care of each other. And Russ Snyder, who just lives down the road about 60 miles from me here in Nebraska, kind of made me feel at home because he's a farm boy too. He's from a town of about 100 people, and I grew up in a town and where I was born in Lamoni of about 1,000, and so we had that in common. And Stu Miller, who was one of the premier relief pitchers of the major leagues for an 8 or 10 year period, he kind of took me under his wing, showed me how to warm up, showed me what's necessary, and the coaching staff helped also. I mean, but some of the players, Mo Drabowski was older, and Dick Hall was there, and of course he was older. They all kind of led me around that first half of at least the first half of the season, and until I just got used to where I was and what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and what's amazing is 1966, the Orioles, they make it to the World Series against the Dodgers, and you didn't pitch during that first World Series that you attended, right?
No, it was funny. We only used 4 pitchers. McNally started and pitched like 2 2/3 innings in the first game, and then Mo came in, Drabowski came in, and set a World Series record for striking out people in a World Series as a relief pitcher. And he finished the game with the last six plus innings, and then Palmer threw a shutout the next day, and then Bunker threw a shutout the third day, and then McNally came back and threw a shutout the fourth game. So it was none of us got out of the bullpen except Mo, but Stu and I both warmed up, I think, about 10 times over the 4 games. He was the bona fide short man, and at that time I was the middle man. My job was 6th, 7th, and 8th, and I was up usually in the 6th, 7th, and 8th of all the games because they were all within 1-run games, with the exception of the second one. So, but I didn't get in, but I got my money's worth.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Eddie, in 1966, you had a record of 7-2 as a relief pitcher, 4 saves, but you didn't get to, the Orioles sweep the Dodgers in 4 games, and of course, 1966, that was Koufax's last year. So were you upset? Yes. So were you upset that you didn't get a chance to play in that first World Series?
Well, I don't think you could say I was upset. The only way I would have gotten to play is if we were behind and we had to pinch hit for whoever was pitching for us, or the normal way a relief pitcher gets into a ball game, and I would never say I was upset. I would have liked to have pitched. Yes, I mean everybody wants to get an opportunity to be to do well on a winning club series, but no, I can't say I would ever be upset.
Right, and then 69 is so close to my heart, Eddie, because I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, so I am a Met fan. So the Mets beat the Orioles. Playing at Shea Stadium, how is that like for you?
For me, it was no difference than playing anywhere else. You run into a different breed of people everywhere you go. You go out west, you go out into California, and everything is a little more laid back, a little more sedate, a little more casual in their attitude toward the game. You go into New York, it's just a different mindset with the people, and I didn't let that bother me. I would be the last person in the world they'd pick on anyhow, because I was probably the least known of any of the ball players on the club. So I tried to make an effort in my 42 years in baseball to not let anybody on the other side of the fence bother me, and I was pretty successful at it.
Yeah, and that 69 season, Eddie, you had a career high of 16 saves and a career low, if I'm not mistaken, an ERA average of 1.65 in 71 innings. I mean, you did very well in 69.
I had a good year. I had a very good year. I think I had finally, I was 28 years old, I guess, 29. I had matured enough, and I got to know myself enough, and I stayed healthy all year. 1970, I didn't have as good a year, and I wasn't healthy all year. But 69, I was, and we had a good ball club. We had a whole bunch of people that got Golden Gloves, and the other bunch should have had, because we were outstanding defensively. And I always said my job was just keep the ball inside the ballpark, and Blair or Belanger or Brooks Robinson or somebody's going to catch it, because we were outstanding defensively and made pitching easy if you just didn't walk people and took a little sting out of the bat. We had a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many questions I can ask you. A question on Brooks Robinson. You saw Brooks Robinson as an infielder play, live. Do you think he was a better fielder than Clete Boyer for the Yankees at third base?
Yes, easily. Clete Boyer was a good player, and don't let anybody ever say that Clete was not a good defensive player. Nettles was a good defensive player. Aurelio Rodriguez was a good defensive player. There were a lot of good third basemen, but Brooks was the best I ever saw, and might be the best that ever will be. He could do everything under the sun that you wanted a third baseman to do. Well, the next year, 1970, against Cincinnati, he put on, for the 5 days, he put on the greatest show of defense at third base that anybody could ever have. Now, he caught balls in foul territory and threw them out at first base. He took base hits from everybody that wore a red uniform. He was the best third baseman I ever saw, period.
Yeah, no question. He was phenomenal. How about Boog Powell? Good first baseman?
Yes, Boog, of course, didn't have a lot of range, but Boog Powell was probably as good a first baseman catching a thrown ball of any I ever saw. Now, he was outstanding. Brooks didn't have a very strong arm, really. He had a good arm, but it wasn't great. And if he made some of his plays throwing off balance or coming in on bunts or something and throwing the ball, Boog would catch everything that he could reach. Balls in the dirt he could pull out. He could do everything he could, and he was never noted as a great fielder. But he never made many errors. Never made many errors, and caught everything that anybody threw to him, on a hop or over his head or anywhere.
And Eddie, they're telling me I have like 30 seconds left. This is why we have to do a part 2 if you're up to it. But I want to mention, as an Oriole, you won 37 games with 74 saves, a 2.73 ERA. This is the third best ERA in modern Oriole post-1954 history after Stu Miller and Hall of Famer Hoyt Wilhelm. That's incredible. So it's really an honor to have you today.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed being here. I always enjoy it.
But let's set up a part 2 if it's okay with you.
All right.
All right. We'll keep in touch. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you.
You just heard from Eddie Watt, pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. Until next week, happy collecting to all.